the one race, your last chance to prove yourself, Formula One.
And you know what
This is how
sucks?
you end it.
That's how he's going to be remembered.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he had a lot of great drives, and like, you know, he bounced around from team to team, made the best of, you know, what he had with what he had. And this is how he's going to be remembered, was the guy who just, like, you know, pulled away the Constructors Championship from a very dominant Red Bull.
It's lights out and away we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. Back here with the full crew, Ed, Thomas, Drew, and I'm Walker, and we are here to recap last race of the season, Abu Dhabi. Holy shit, what a season. There's so much to talk about. But first, I want to throw it to our resident Oracle.
Okay.
You laugh at yourself, but you know what? I was thinking about this week, and I was like, you know what? Ed went out on a limb. Yeah, he was a little ridiculous at times, but like, he fully bought into the McLaren thing maybe earlier than the rest of us, right? And we made a lot of fun of you. We had a lot of fun at your expense, but you were half right, and that's got to count for something, right? So
I love that. Thank you.
Credit where credit's due. So you're half an oracle. You're an aura, or you're just a cull. I'm not really sure which yet, but Ed, do us the honors. Start us off. Abu Dhabi 2024, McLaren World Champions.
Yeah. You know what? Like, when we were watching the race over at the Scuderia Club of Toronto, I was actually skeptical if McLaren was actually going to go run away with it, because also I was surrounded by every single tifosi in Canada at that point. But yeah, like, the race in itself, the highlights for me were Charles Leclerc with his P19 to P3, and our boy Lewis Hamilton, P18 to P4. Like, we all know that the battle for the World Constructors Championship was definitely fought that race, and that was a good send-off for a fantastic 2024 season. But man, those two drives were just like magisterial is the word that I want to use right now. And did not let off at all. And now I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen in the off season, which stuff have already started, and we'll talk about that later in the episode. But yeah, man, it was a good race to end the season.
I like Yasmarina. I think it's a fantastic track. I think it's a beautiful course in the way it's laid out. I know that, you know, from what Robert had said, the elevation change isn't really there, but it's not an easy course. It looks like a tricky little course for these guys, and there's lots of overtaking. The one thing you don't have here, and that we saw, was a lot of red flags. There wasn't a lot of guys hitting the wall. There wasn't a ton of opportunity for guys to hit the wall, but there was a lot of on-track battles. And I think where they have the DRS zone and where everything is kind of situated leads to some exciting racing. And, like, you know, that turn 5 hairpin, you know, leads to a lot of dive bombs and a lot of late braking. And I'm here for it. I thought it was a fantastic race, and it was a nice way to end off the year. Kind of like what Ed had said, there's a lot of guys that had, you know, not really done a whole lot throughout the year and ended up, you know, kind of making a splash on the last race of the season. And, you know, you got the guys at Haas, the guys at Alpine, you know, even Stake Sauber made a little bit of a comeback. And our boy Valtteri Bottas did the best he could with what he had. And, you know, the Lewis comeback, the Charles Leclerc comeback, like, these were some great drives out of some great drivers, and there's nothing more you can ask for. Ferrari played their heart out. They did everything they could to do the right things. But if Lando caught that win, McLaren was taking home the Constructors Championship, and they did. Congrats to those guys. That was a fantastic drive, and you know, that was an uphill battle all season. That was not a walk away in any way, shape, or form. But Lando grabbed the race by its horns right from the get, and didn't let go. And hats off to McLaren for not dropping the ball, because they could have very easily done that. And where Charles ended up and where Sainz was the whole time, you dropped that ball for a second and it was a wrap. So hats off to McLaren, man. It was a great season, great way to end the season. And if you're not excited for 2025, y'all crazy.
Yeah. not much else to add. What you guys said overall was perfect ending, I think, to the season. It was definitely, to Drew's point, everyone brought out what they had left to kind of give that oomph to the end of the season. Very glad for, Ferrari definitely played their game very strong too. McLaren obviously killed it. Mercedes and all the other drivers. It was a very kind of bittersweet. I kind of felt a little bit bittersweet that the season is ending. There were so much changes, and looking forward to the next season, there's going to be even more changes, more drivers swapping seats or not even being on the grid. So it was a little bit I felt a little bit bittersweet in regards to that. But overall, fun race. Was quite entertaining. Happy for McLaren, happy for Ferrari. Red Bull nabbed the world champion title early on, but it is what it is, and looking forward to the next season.
I love the race, and I thought early on there was drama right away with that first turn incident. You had Max and Piastri, and that gave almost a glimmer of hope that maybe Ferrari had a chance. But as you went to see, I almost think like for McLaren's championship was a little overshadowed by the performances of Leclerc and Hamilton. I feel like there was at the end of the race, there was so much attention obviously on Hamilton, right? And him ending and him getting that, special, spot up on the grid. And we can decide whether that is, whether it's earned or not. The other part of it is it just felt a little anticlimactic with the championship and even the questions afterwards, right? Like it almost felt like it was kind of done and dusted, and McLaren was obviously celebrating, but it felt like the rest of the broadcast and just the media attention, everything around that was really about the performance of Charles and Lewis. But I thought they both put on fantastic drives. They both came from the back of the pack. They had that first incident to help them through maybe a little bit, but I think it's actually going to be really fun to watch those two drive in the same car on the same team next year. And it's going to be interesting to see what they can do together and see how they coexist, especially with Charles being the incumbent and Lewis being there because he's, one of the best ever. Red Bull didn't have a great day. They didn't really need to. They knew where they were in the championship. Someone who needed to have a good day, though, in Red Bull was Checo. And man, like you pull for the guy, you feel for him, and it was just nothing.
He couldn't even buy luck.
He couldn't do nothing. Like how I don't even know what to say about him. It's like, what was it, lap 1 or lap 2? He was out.
I think it was lap 2.
Lap 2 because he spun and just didn't hit the clutch. I don't even know what happened to him, but
clutch, yeah.
Like, come on, man. The one race, your last chance to prove yourself, Formula One.
And you know what?
This is how you end it.
That's how he's going to be remembered.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he had a lot of great drives, and he bounced around from team to team, made the best of, what he had with what he had. And this is how he's going to be remembered, was the guy who just pulled away the Constructors Championship from a very dominant Red Bull, and Max had to do everything himself. And, at least he had a partner like Max to do it himself for the last couple of years. But, this year the spread was so big that he couldn't even do that. And it's too bad because Checo wasn't a bad driver the whole time in his career. But the last 2 years, I'd say, it's not a look.
Yeah, it was really painful. You know what? Like even Robert, when we had him on the podcast last episode, he himself, he races, and it's a long drawn out procedure of having Checo being in the team. And I think at this point it's just more of a money situation. He has 2 more years in his contract. He was the main reason why they lost the World Constructors Championship. And you're right, Drew. This is what he'll be remembered for. And not too long ago, when he was racing for Racing Point in Yas Marina, when he took that car from last place and drove it to P1. No one will remember that anymore because of this. because of his performance for the past 2 years. And it's sad, really. He's a good driver, but you got to know when to, walk into the sunset and, leave with your dignity. I guess at this point, he wants to leave with money.
Honestly, I wish I could say I'm surprised what happened with Checo, but I'm really not. And I'm sure most of us are not surprised. Leave it to Checo to the last race where he fucks it up completely. His fault or not, he ended up, doing that. What I'm more surprised is how, and we talked about this a little bit before, but how Red Bull has drawn out the whole procedure with Checo, how they renewed his contract. That came as a surprise to all of us. We're like, really? He's not performing to your standards and you still give this guy 2 years? Obviously money was involved in sponsorship and everything, but to this point, now they're seeing how they could buy him out or how he can retire. What can they do essentially to get rid of him the cheapest option possible? So Red Bull put themselves in such a messed up situation, and it's entertaining to watch right now because this all could have been avoided very early on. So there's also that to look forward to, how that's going to end.
Red Bull needs like a new head of HR. They need like a consultant. They need somebody there to help them with their personnel issues, because they have been absolutely brutal at just dealing with this stuff, right? You look at driver lineups, you look at how they kind of handled the whole Danny Rick thing. Is he in? Is he out? Will he get the seat? Will he not? Like, they just need to, that's one thing that you look at someone like Mercedes, right? And whether you think it's the right call or not, they announced Kimi Antonelli, midway through the season, and that's their guy, right? There's nothing else going on. No one has to wonder what their job looks like. Like, it's done. And I think there's a lot of value to that when you're running these kind of teams with these kind of personalities. Because I don't know if they're really setting up someone like Sergio to succeed in that kind of environment, in that car, when you feel like you're just fighting for your life every single time. And yeah, you have to perform, and yeah, that's part of your evaluation. But if you have, at one point, you just need to know one way or the other. Like, what do I have to do or what do I not have to do? And I saw an interesting stat. I think it's shared it in the Discord earlier this week, that Sergio has the second or third highest damage total all year, something like £4.5 million or 4.5 million euros. That takes a big chunk of that sponsorship money means a little bit less when you're costing the team that much in terms of damages and repairs, especially in the cost cap era. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I said last week, I don't think he's going quietly, and I still don't think he will. I don't know if you've heard anything else on that front or what's happening with him.
Well,
I haven't heard anything.
I heard rumor mill, nothing confirmed, that they are trying to convince him to retire because that is the cheapest option. I think he will be able to, in some way, shape, or form, still be part of the Red Bull organization, but not as a driver. Because another rumor that has been circling, yet even the hosts on Sky Sports have mentioned it multiple times throughout the post-race show, that Liam Lawson is going to take the seat, Yuki Tsunoda is going to stay in V-Carb, and Isaac Hadjar is going to take the second seat in V-Carb. Again, these are all just speculation at this point. As we all know, there's always that like veil of secrecy with RB and V-Carb. You're right, like Walker, they need someone, not only just HR, but also PR as well.
All the
do
R.
this.
All the
All the R's.
Every R.
I mean, they have RBR, V-Carb, all the, even the naming alone of the
That's
second
a
team.
hard R.
Oh,
That is a hard R.
Right now, the question
That is a
is,
hard R.
does the HR make majority decisions, or is it Helmut Marko and Christian Horner? Right, like that's. I'm pretty sure Christian Horner has a lot of say and a lot of input in regards to those decisions as well.
Oh, I don't think they have any HR department. I think it's all Helmut and Christian fighting it out and arguing, and that's why it's such a shit show. I'm saying they would
think
benefit from having an HR professional. Like,
Yeah. And I think to Ed's point too, I think that a PR department would be good, because if you look at, in your comparison to Walker, I thought that was fantastic. And it's just the polar opposite where like, Mercedes is very militant in how they do it. They approach things very like straight up. This is what's going to happen. These are our choices. This is why we made them. This is what's going on. This is our plan. And everyone knows it in and out of the paddock, in and out of the Mercedes team. Everyone knows what's going on. I'm not even sure that Red Bull knows what's going on at this point. And to your point, Walker, like, do I think that Checo's going to go quietly? Why would he? He's got a contract for 2 more years. Now, what do I, to Ed's point, what the hell is he going to do? He's not a Danny Rick. He barely has a personality on his best day. English is not his first language. Understanding him is miserable. Like, I guess you could be like a Spanish translator idea. Like, what would you do there, bud? Like, unless you're a mechanic that no one knew about, like, I don't actually know what purpose you would serve. And like, we heard about Danny Rick being, part of the RB family, and this bro's been gone since he walked out of that race. I haven't seen him. You seen him?
Instagram.
Yeah,
doing other stuff. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, he's not around.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's ironic that Red Bull branded organization needs help with PR and marketing, because
that's what they're for.
Masters at this, right? Like, that's all. Yeah, they do energy drinks, but really, they just make you want to do what they're doing, right? Like, that's what they sell you. They're masters.
They sell
of
the
it.
extreme.
They sell the extreme, and now it's.
Well,
anyways,
this is an extremely big mess.
What I was thinking was,
well said.
Well said, sir.
While I was watching the race, I was kind of, had this thought and my idea, kind of Checo versus Danny Rick. And it popped into my head. They got rid of Danny Rick, in my eyes, pretty easy and pretty quick compared to Checo. And Danny Rick, to what we all know, had way more marketability. He was way more liked with the grid, with the fans. And they essentially threw him out so fast. Meanwhile, Checo wasn't performing, doesn't have the personality, nothing, and he stayed. So that was very weird observation that I made as well, and just kind of like, figuring out why. Again, maybe the sponsorship money played a role, but just something wasn't really adding up.
I bet you they have very different contracts, though. Right, yeah. I think Danny Rick was kind of like, kind of like written on like a bar, yeah. Like on a bar napkin, and we'll see if we like you or not. And Checo's is probably a little bit more litigious, let's just say, if he wants to.
I know $2 words there.
Big words. Alpine came out of absolutely nowhere. They had one good race all year, and they fucking secure 6th place. On the flip side of Perez, Gasly is apparently the first driver to not cost his team any money.
0.
And the HR department at Alpine, the accounting and finance, are loving him right now.
Hell yeah.
Good for the bottom line. Like, he had a consistently decent season in a consistently bad car. Like, you needed like torrential downpour, and it just short of like fucking Noah's Ark showing up to like place in a race, and it won them 6th place in the championship.
That's what happens when you have a heavy car. It just treads through that water like it ain't no thing.
Oh, wow.
You know what? I like Pierre Gasly. I've been saying this since, we started the podcast. I don't know if I have a little man crush on that little French Fugazi, but I like him as a person. I think he's a funky little dude, and I think he's a decent driver when he has an opportunity. And, much like we've been talking about Mercedes over the last few months and years, that like sometimes when you're just consistent, when those opportunities present themselves, you're in a position to take advantage of it. And I think that's what Ocon and Gasly did in Brazil when the rain came down, that they had just put themselves in a position to take advantage of it. And, throughout the year, they were making incremental changes in the right direction. And it was never anything that was like mind blowing. But from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, they were on a trajectory in the right direction, and they stuck to it. And Who knows what's going to happen next year? Obviously, everyone's kind of starting from zero-ish again, and I think that that Alpine still has a ton of work to do. But I think them kind of just owning it, that they're going to be a purchaser instead of a works team as of 2026, jumping on board with the Mercedes bandwagon. Look what that did for McLaren.
Yep.
Right. So like you can say what you want, but when you buy a power plant from Mercedes, it gives you all the opportunities in the world to at least have a head start. So I'm looking forward to see what those guys got, and with Jack and Pierre, we'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, you know what? I'm super excited for Alpine because of that. Like they're gonna have like a really good power plant. They can, divert their resources not on the engine, building out that engine, being a works team. I mean, sad for those, people in the factory that won't be working on Formula One. I think they're going to be focusing more on Le Mans LMP. But still, either way, like there will be additional resources now for the team in order to build out, a fantastic aero, a good system for their suspension, and then possibly even the transmission too. Like that's going to help tremendously. And now with the hopefully harmonious situation with Gasly and Jack Doohan, we'll see, man. Like I am super excited for Alpine next year. And same thing too with Haas, with connection with Toyota on that one. See what they can do from their wind tunnel, and also what they've learned through their from Toyota's very, very short stint in Formula One back in the day. So lots of nice things really moving forward to next year, even if we are one more year away from the rule changes. But yeah, as I said, like at the start of this episode, like this was a really, really nice way to end the season, and lots of nice things, lots of new things, and looking forward to 2025.
With Alpine, switching to their new power units from Mercedes, I'm still not holding up high hopes. I think we all know what Mercedes power units can do. They're amazing. Yes, you could get a head start, but I think the team itself is just gonna mess it up at the beginning and not perform well. There's going to be definitely a period of adaptability for that. So I don't expect great things for the first half of the season.
Is that effective next year, or is that only like 2026?
The engine,
the power unit, yeah,
2026.
Yeah. So okay, so they got one more year with their thing.
Oh, I thought they were gonna go out to 2025.
I thought so too. 25.
Yeah. Well, we'll fact check. You will fact check.
As per usual, we've got our shit straight here. I do really enjoy seeing Doohan's do on the track, like his like little three letter acronym.
Do.
I did get a kick out of like do, just do. I kept trying to think of a scenario where there would be like do, but I couldn't.
I did a quick fact check. Yes, they will be starting in 2026, and the contract is signed to 2030, at least to the end of 2030.
Oh, nice. Okay.
There we go. Thank you for doing that, Drew, so quickly. We got McLaren. They won, world champions, first time in 25 years. Did you guys see that little graphic that was going around social media about all the similarities between their current championship and their last one 25 years ago as it relates to Hamilton and Ferrari and apparently Spanish drivers?
I did see that.
I saw that.
I think if you look hard enough, the coincidences are everywhere.
I was going to say, what is that a sign? What is that a sign for? Anything?
Well, I saw another whatever Instagram post, and I didn't have time to fact check it, but it was pretty much saying that whoever won at Yas Marina, the following year they win the championship.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Well,
and that's been working out since 2017 or whenever they first started racing there with Hamilton. So,
but didn't Max win last year? Like the last 4 years?
I'm fucking telling you, man. I just read the thing. I didn't say I fact checked it. I'm just telling you what I read. Like,
I think what Drew means, whoever wins the race, not the whole constructors or anything. Who wins that specific race?
Yeah, not the constructors. No, wins the
I know,
driver's
but it
championship.
still doesn't make sense.
All right, I'm just saying.
Oh, wins the driver's championship.
Yes.
Well, even that wouldn't really make sense, but Anyways,
Jesus.
who am I to
Way to-
fact check?
Way to doo-doo on my parade there. Now we get to use it.
There you
we
go. He used it.
Nailed it. So you guys were watching with the Scuderia of Toronto Club. Obviously, big Ferrari contingent. What was their reaction to the race? Because were they disappointed? Were they like thrilled because they just missed out of second place? It's the second year in a row that they've come close to kind of claiming that next spot. Like, what was the atmosphere and the energy like there?
When Lando Norris came in for his pit stop, the tension was palpable. If Lando was going to have a sticky tire or something happen where, Carlos could have just ripped by. The first corner when Oscar Piastri got dumped out with Max and went to the back of the grid, that was a big cheer. Pretty much everything pro Ferrari got a big cheer. That being said, Ferrari knew it was a long shot, especially going into the race with Lando on pole and knowing how this was all likely to play out with the gap that they had to make up on top of that. It was a very unlikely scenario, but you have to give it up to the Tifosi. The energy is always there. They are diehard red till they die, right? So it's a very interesting atmosphere.
Yeah. Was it in their eyes, was it a successful season? Or were they disappointed?
Yeah, it was.
Well, obviously you're disappointed because the W is way better than an L, but
of course,
were they excited for yes, it's something, for them to look forward to. Like the fact that they, based on the beginning of the season, and especially how last season played out, like the fact that they were above Red Bull is crazy. And the fact that they had a shot at first place was crazy. And again, back to my consistency point, like Ferrari's been very consistent this year. Like Freddie Vasseur's done a fantastic job taking that team and in 2 years, like turning it into a championship fighting team. That's unreal. They were 4th, 5th in the pack for the last few years, and that's no bueno. And now that they're actually showing up in a big way, and maybe Lewis can give them a little bit of help, and I hope that they stay on that trajectory because I think that Ferrari's going to have a lot of great things coming this direction.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like had they not had that snafu of an upgrade in Spain and post Miami, like they would have run away with it. Like they would have just kept that momentum. I mean, that's the same thing too with Max. Like he was doing really well at the start of the season, and then Miami happened and just like kind of went meh. But yeah, like, and I give it to Ferrari that even if there was like that big snafu of an upgrade, which felt really like a downgrade or like them shooting themselves in the knee, they came back strong and after the summer break and try to win a few races back. And as we all know, Leclerc was also pushing it, but Sainz was on another level because he was in a mission that he wanted to get as much wins as he could. Because next year he's going to Williams. He's going to be in a team that's not that, not that well in terms of performance, not that consistent. They are consistent in crashing in the wall, so that's one. And destroying their cars, that's two. So, yeah, kudos to Ferrari. With Lewis Hamilton next year, with his inputs on all of the changes in the new design, hopefully by next year, who knows? We may have a Ferrari Drivers' Champion.
2025.
I'm not going to predict that. Oracle is dead.
I'm going to predict that 2025 is going to be Ferrari. Okay, like that's I know Ferrari fans are saying this year is going to be our year, but no, 2025 is going to be the year of Ferrari. And kind of wanted to touch back upon Carlos Sainz as well. The way he drove for Ferrari this year was just unreal, man. Like he was on a mission to prove that, hey, you know what, Ferrari, you effed up by letting me go. This is what I can do. And he showed it. I think that was his whole mission, and he proved it. I'm sad
to see him possessed.
Go. Yeah, exactly. I'm sad to see him go to another team. I don't think he's gonna. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I don't think he's gonna drive as well as he did for Ferrari. But time will tell. We'll see. But 2025, the year of Ferrari.
I think it was really nice seeing the send off. You could tell the people at Ferrari on the team really like Carlos. I felt like he had a lot of impact in his 4 years there, and you could just like everyone spoke so highly of him, whether it was Charles or whether it was, Fred or any of the team or things like that. You could just tell, like, they have a lot of love for that guy there. And I think he just, he was in the wrong seat at the wrong time. And that's kind of what it came down to. You can't blame them for signing someone like Hamilton. But, I think it was very much bittersweet for a lot of people on that team. At least that's kind of what I took from, watching the videos and the send-offs and just how the team was rallying around him. And there was almost no better way, aside from a win, I guess, than to finish out the season with that team. So I'm really excited to see what he does in Williams. And, we're going to do a whole kind of like preview episode next week. So everyone tune in for that. So we just talked about this amazing season. Obviously, lots to look forward to in 2025. That's coming next week. But right now, let's do a little bit of a retrospective. Let's think back on 2024, the year that was. And let's just say, this has been one of the most entertaining years and seasons of Formula One in a very, very long time. Primarily thanks to Max not completely dominating every single race. Between the drivers and the constructors, there's been a lot to love throughout the field, right? It's not even just the top 4 teams. There's been storylines all over the place. If you can, and maybe you can't, looking back at 2024, I'd love to hear from each of you. Who is your driver of the year? Who is your team of the year? And what is a moment that stood out to you?
Cool.
I like that.
3
Who wants to kick us
fantastic
off?
questions. Are we going to do is each person have to grab all 3 of those answers quick times, or are we going to go around?
You want to go one at a time?
Yeah, let's go around one at a time.
Okay.
All right.
Driver of the year. Ed, start us off, buddy.
Driver of the year for me would be George Russell. The tire whisperer, and he was pretty consistent in terms of getting as much as he can out of the Mercedes car, and had a few wins under his belt as well, which is a good thing. But what really stood out to me was more towards the end of the season when he threw down the beef with Max Verstappen.
Yeah, go ahead. I just had a very visceral reaction to that answer. I don't know why. I almost want to throw up a little, but carry on.
Okay, I'll take that. But I want to hear the visceral reaction.
Me
I love
too.
it.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that Mike picked it up. You can hear it back on playback.
Yeah. Okay. Driver of the year. I'm going to go with Carlos Sainz. He's the only guy that I know that can go get an appendix out and come back and win a race. It's impressive, man. It's impressive.
Weight reduction, bro.
Yeah, but
It's
you know
not
what?
just that. Didn't work for Albon though.
That's what I'm getting at, right? Weight reduction, I totally get it. But at the other side is he came into this year knowing that he was fired, right? And so when you have that looming over your head, especially with a driver of his caliber at a team like Ferrari, we've seen what pressure can do to drivers on Checo. And it's one of those scenarios where I think Carlos took everything that he could and just made the best with it. And he didn't have any sure-footed answer of where he was going. And I think that, that's a very unsettling feeling. And I think he just took that and used it to his advantage and just drove the tires off that car all year. And, he wasn't always the greatest driver, but I can tell you that he always strung together the best race that he could with whatever scenario was given to him. And right up until the end at the Yas Marina, right from Australia to Yas Marina, that guy put together a clinic this year, and it's a very impressive drive from him. And, I think with Vowles at Williams, I think they're going to be a great team. And I think that, they're going to make some strides in the right direction, and I hope it's enough for Carlos. But he's my driver of the year.
So I was going to say Carlos as well, but since not to copy Drew's answer, I'm going to say Checo Perez for all the different reasons of how entertaining he made the season for us, how many times he sucked, how many times he failed, how many times we were like, no, again? You crashed again? You finished last again? So that is my driver of the year for all the wrong reasons. Mr. Perez, thank you for the entertainment. Loved it.
Yeah, little do people know, Checo is actually a friend of the show, but mostly because he just gives us lots to talk about.
So much content.
Thank you.
Very friendly. He's always welcome here.
Yes.
My driver of the year, I'm going to go with Lando. I love the way, I feel like he's really evolved over the year as a driver. You know, he found himself in a fast car, someone that could compete with Red Bull kind of midway through after Miami, and then he got that whole thing in Austria, and he just looked like an amateur trying to race next to Max, right? And I feel like we've really seen an evolution of him over the year, slowly being more and more mature in how he's racing and how he's choosing the race. And I love hearing about that from him as well, because you hear quite often where he's like, you know, I got a lot to work on. Like, you know, I've done a lot of things wrong this year, and I'm learning and I'm figuring it out. And I think he's going through that process with a lot of humility and a lot of grace. And I think he's going to be tough competition next year. I think he's going to be a lot more competitive next year from the beginning, and a lot more mature in how he races. And I think it's going to make for a fantastic season. So Lando Norris, driver of the year for me.
I
Team
hope
of the
you're
year.
right. I hope you're right, because he
Team
failed
of the
me
year.
this year. Team of the year for me would be, I would go with Alpine, because they were given the shortest end of the stick. It's probably like a toothpick at this point, and came back with a vengeance and put V-Carb and Haas in shame. You know, Steak Sauber, it's not even counted. Like, we celebrated that, you know, Zhou Guanyu was able to score a point, and we'll give him that. But man, when they capitalize on in Brazil, amidst all of the drama that they had, and even signing on Flavio Briatore, and, you know, all of their changes, they still came back. Pierre Gasly now being in the top 10 for drivers' points. Respect. Like, everything was against them, and still they came out and is at the top of all the back markers.
You know what? I'm going to go with Haas this year as my team. I know we didn't talk about Haas a whole ton, but I think that, you know, kind of historically where Haas has been, at least since I've started watching Formula One, has been last or second last, but mostly last. And to see the two vets with Hulkenberg and K-Mag, you know, K-Mag knowing that he's leaving, and Hulkenberg being drafted by the Sauber team for the future, it's very interesting to see how many strides in the right direction they're taking. And I think if we pulled Alpine's huge Brazilian points out of this, Haas would have definitely ended up somewhere much higher. And by much higher, I mean like at least in sixth place. But I think that there's just an opportunity for Haas to keep growing in that right direction. I'm looking forward to a couple of those young guns getting in there, doing their thing over at Haas, and kind of showing us what they can do. So it's more of I'm looking forward to it. You know, obviously you could talk about Mercedes year, Ferrari's year, Red Bull's year, McLaren's year. You know, they've all done well this season, but I think Haas, from kind of where I've seen them come to where they are this year, I'm going to give my team of the year to Haas. And cheers to the old boys doing their thing.
Yeah, so again, I was going to say Haas too, just the way they were, you know, performing. Like, from this year, something changed. Like, whether, you know, obviously we know the leadership changed, but something like reignited that spark in their team. They just started competing. They were in the points, and it was like, who is this team, right? Like, they were always like 18, 19, 20, you know, whatever, DNF. But now they were constantly almost in the points, in the qualifying. So they have my hats off. Obviously, another like kind of honorable mention I want to mention too is Ferrari as well. You know, to Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, the way those two boys were performing and giving all their got, that was very entertaining and interesting to watch. So going into the next season as well, looking at Haas, especially seeing what they can pull off with new driver lineup in 2025, and hopefully see them on the podium from next season.
I think Haas definitely is an honorable mention for me. I think the fact that they don't have a ticking time bomb as their team principal probably helps. So we could talk about more about that in another episode, looking at 2025. But my team of the year, I'm going to give it to Williams. And drivers aside, I feel like that team, just the fact that they were able to field a car, or at least one car, at all 24 races, given what they had to go through, given the budgets and what they were working with, and the amount of damage they dealt with throughout the year, just got to give it up for like the team, like the
At least the
mechanics.
mechanics, yeah, those guys.
Everybody except the drivers, maybe, right? Like everyone was they just got absolutely decimated, especially even I feel like the last 4 or 5 races of the year. It's just like always something. And to be that kind of team with those budgets and still showing up week to week. Big fan of James Vowles, as we've talked about. Excited to see what's going to happen with them next year. But Williams, team of the year for me. Last one, favorite moment. If you can pick a favorite moment.
I have just one, and I've been talking about this. I even have a one TikTok episode on this one, or one video rather. The double pass of Alex Albon in Montreal. Like even FIA had posted it too as the move of the year. And at some point when I saw that, like, wow, Williams might be doing something right. And man, was I wrong. They crashed their car so many times this season. It's just wow. But you know what? It just shows that, as you said, Walker, and also Drew, like James Vowles, he put together that team out of lint, piece of gum, and possibly like a rubber band or some tape, and tried to bring them through the season. They survived somehow, and with the caliber of Carlos Sainz joining their ranks, maybe they might have another moment for me next season.
Yeah, you know what? My moment, I don't know if it's a moment, but my excited part of this year is the rookies. Like they lost Logan Sargent and they put in Colapinto, and I'm very much looking forward to some of these young guns coming in. We got Kimi Antonelli at Mercedes, Jack Doohan. We got Ollie Behrman coming in. I think I'm just the most excited for some of these young guns coming in and doing their thing. And, Ollie Behrman thrown into to Ferrari and getting 7th place in his first race with a few hours notice is nothing to shake your stick at, right? So I'm just very much looking forward to the rookies, seeing what they have going on. And you know what, based on some of the, 2024 post-season racing that the guys have put on, there's a lot of potentials coming up, right? In terms of who some of these teams are looking at. And I'm excited for it. That's, it's the next face of Formula One. And I'm excited to see what these young guys got.
So kind of to touch up upon your point, Drew, I feel kind of weird and kind of sad, basically what you mentioned. I think there's such a big shakeup in the grid and so many new names. It's, again, like this bittersweet moment because we're losing some good names. I know some names are switching to other teams, but with these rookies is just, I don't know, I get like a little weird feeling, like too much change too soon, essentially. That's what I'm feeling. In regards to like my favorite moment, I guess, again, I'm not really a moment, but it would be probably the Miami race when essentially Max started to drop off. And that's when things essentially got interesting going forward from that race. That would be probably my highlight.
I like how it's not that Lando won his first race. It's just that Max lost.
So drop off.
Yeah. It's a very Thomas answer. My first, my favorite moment of the season, I'm a diehard Lewis fan, as many of you here know. So I'm just I got 2 British Grand Prix, first win in a few years. I felt like that was super emotional. That was nice to see. And even this last race, it was just nice to see him back in a car that he could race and doing what he does. So it's in recent memory, but those two are the ones that are kind of sticking with me right now.
Yeah, listening to him say, or in the post-race interview, when Bono said it's hammer time, and he's like, man, when I heard that, that was like the last time I'm ever gonna hear that. You know what I mean? He's just like, that was like a shock to me. But he's like, I knew exactly what to do. He's like, put it in Strat 5. I don't know what Strat 5 meant, but like, I know they turned up something on that engine. They're like, whatever, we're taking this to the finish line. And he made up 14 seconds in 10 laps or something like that. It was unbelievable. So yeah, he still knows how to drive. He just needs a better car. So let's hope Ferrari gives it to him next year.
All right, boys. That's 2024.
Yep.
Wrapped. That's it. We do have one last thing to do, though.
Of course we do.
There's only one way to end an episode, to end a season like this. And that's with our favorite game. Name that sponsor. Drew, do I have to...
Name that sponsor. Yeah.
I'm going to have to cue you every single time. Like, we've done this, how many episodes now? I still have to cue you up on it. So just a quick recap. So right now, Drew is in the lead with 36 points. Thomas is in third. I got to switch this around so I read it properly. Thomas is in third, last, with 12 points. And Ed is in second with 18 points. However, in a major twist, on our final round of Name That Sponsor, each correct answer is now worth 10 points.
Oh,
so really, it's anyone's game.
None of it mattered.
None of it mattered. Those are the words of a scared little boy. There we go. I have faith in you, Drew, though. I feel like you can still pull this out. We will see.
She said.
That's what she said.
All right.
The first one is Aramco.
Aston Martin. And I don't know what they do. I'm going to say manufacturing, CNC machining, something like that.
Okay.
Aston Martin oil.
Okay.
Yeah, Aston Martin oil and petroleum products.
All right. Ed and Drew running the table. Aston Martin and oil and petroleum. Thomas, you got Aston, so we'll give you 10 points. Next up is Claro.
Gonna say Alpine and fragrance or perfume, something like that. I don't know.
Nailed it. These are the lobby easy ones at the end of the year. And he's literally telling you the biggest sponsors on the cars, bro. Literally the biggest sponsors. It's Red Bull and it's a telecommunications.
Yeah, Red Bull. And just to add, like that, I think that's one of the sponsors that
Checo brought.
Yeah, Checo brought.
It's the only reason he's there.
Mm-hmm.
You said Red Bull and what, Ed? What's your second part? What do they do?
Telecommunications.
Okay. Drew and Ed, both right. Thomas, that was wrong.
Oh, man.
All right. Final question. Just to recap the scores, Drew, you're still in the lead with 76. Ed is close behind with 58. And Thomas, you have 22. Last one is VistaJet.
Oh, no. I don't know.
VistaJet. Thomas?
I am going to say, hold on, I just lost it. VistaJet, like something with printing or something with print technology. And for the team, I'm going to say Williams.
Is Walker laughing?
Yeah, Walker's dying over here. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. People are just they're going to be unsure whether you watch Formula One at all. They're going to be like, does that guy even watch the races? Is that even a thing?
I'll go first so that it doesn't sound like I was copying Drew. I'll say VistaJet. They are, I guess, brokers for private jets, and the team would be Alpine.
Yeah, they're a private jet place. They're on Ferrari.
Damn, Drew, running the board. 60 point. today. Ed, you got that right as well. We'll do charter jets. But Thomas, with the answer of the year for printers. It's wonderful.
Inkjet, VistaJet.
When I saw Walker go down, it's like,
You saw him like disappear out of frame. I was like,
he
what
was
is
dying.
happening?
All right. So, to recap, the end of the year, we have Drew winning, taking home the championship with 96 points. Ed coming in a solid second with 68. And Thomas round 8. You know what? You weren't last because we had a couple of guests, but you're last in terms of this. And you had 22 points. So congratulations, Drew. Do you have any words, anything you'd like to say?
If I didn't play today, I still would have beat Thomas.
Oh my
Oh man, good time.
That is true.
Yeah, I'd like to thank my friends, family, God, the big man above, and I just came out and just did what I had to do. I put my head in the game and just had to pass the puck.
Take one round at a time.
That's it.
Gentlemen. This has been a lot of fun. Everybody, don't forget to subscribe. Check us out on all the socials, YouTube, Insta, TikTok. We have Discord as well. Always lots going on there. Link is going to be in the show notes. Ed's got something to say.
Yeah. So thank you for everyone who actually went to the event and for everyone who shared the event. It was very successful. Racing with Autism, we were able to raise money for them and they enjoyed themselves as well. But please don't let this end here. We are a good partner of Racing with Autism. And give a shout out also to Robert Burgess of Radical Canada, Suelio Almeida of Suelio Academy, Team SGR for also, and Pantheon Garage for posting and sharing this with everyone else. It got some pretty good traction as well. And lastly, I'd like to call out Jason Hjorth, I believe. I hope I'm not butchering his last name, of Metro Wide Paving. These guys tried to make sure that they could help us get the word out, and thank you so much. And it was a good season, and looking forward to 2025. We'll have more of that and more with the Scuderia Ferrari Club of Toronto, and give big shout outs to Mr. Juan Carlos Felino.
Well, there we have it. For Drew, Ed, Thomas, I'm Walker. This has been Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. And we'll talk to you soon.
It's lights out and away we go.